welcome to today's show. We've got some amazing projects lined up for you today, but first I'm having a quick scrap chat with Tiff Sawyer. How are you, Tiff?
Hi, very well, thank you, Dawn.
Now, I love this layout and I believe this was made for a very special occasion. Can you tell me what that was?
It was for Scrapbooking Masters in 2010, and I was very excited when there was a double in the criteria because obviously that's my favourite project to do. I felt very comfortable doing it, and I've used a lot of beautiful embellishments, some quite meaningful in creation of the layout.
Beautiful work. Now this was the Scrapbooking Memories Masters and you won this in 2010. Was it your first time entering?
It wasn't actually. I've entered probably about 4 or 5 years, I can't remember exactly how many, but it was pretty much a dream of mine from the first time that I started scrapbooking. I think I started out pretty similarly to most people with the creative memories, yep. Very basic stuff, and then when I think my first ever magazine was the Scrapbooking Memories Masters magazine, and that just opened up a whole new world for me, and I just used to look at the ladies and their creations and just dream that one day, you know, that it would happen for me, and it was just a dream of mine. Some people have dreams of being on particular design teams or for manufacturers overseas, that type of thing, but for me it was just the Masters, and I just used to enter even when I had absolutely no chance. I think it's a little bit like buying a lottery ticket. You don't really think you're going to win, but there's always a little glimmer of hope. If
you're not in it, you can't win it.
That's right.
This layout is so stunning with so many layers. Are there particular items that you've used from the day? That, you know, from
not actually from the wedding day, no, but the golden book is obviously a reflection of my childhood because I had a lot of golden books, so that's very sentimental. I just love the colours.
And working with black and white, you can use pretty much any colours that you like.
You can,
yeah.
That's right. And it's very classic, so I do a lot of black and white photography on my layouts.
I like black and white. I mean, you can do so much with it. So for Scrapbooking Memories, for the Masters competition, surely there was more than a double layout required. How many hours did you put into that? Or do you dare not add those up?
Quite a few hours, yes, because there's a lot of layers there and a lot of adhesion. It takes time to dry, and yeah, definitely a lot of time involved there.
Beautiful. And as a Scrapbooking Master, where has it taken you?
I've actually had a lot of opportunities from winning the competition, teaching and giving talks around at the different shows in different states, just the exposure that it gives you, and I've been fortunate, I guess, with opening my business that I had a little bit of a name from the competition.
Reputation preceded you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, there's a lot that people can learn from your stunning work. Don't be afraid to work with colour. What else would you advise anyone who's thinking they might enter the Masters competition in 2012?
Well, I say just definitely go for it. You've got to be in it to win it, and yeah, it just opens a world of opportunity, and it doesn't really matter how many times you enter. It's sometimes just about the process. I just used to love you know, getting the criteria and actually planning my projects, and it takes a long time from the time that you actually get the criteria to the time that it's announced. So you do have a long time of excitement and build up and waiting, and I just love the whole process. I guess actually winning is a little bit disappointing in that you can't enter anymore.
Oh, well, but winning must be pretty exciting within itself.
Yeah,
fantastic,
definitely.
Just gorgeous. Well, Tiff, I do love how you use your Twiddly Bits chipboard. There's something about it that gives you so much dimension and pop. I hope that you've enjoyed looking at Tiff's beautiful project. Are you inspired to enter a competition? I hope you are. Give it a go. Thanks for joining us, and bye for now. Thank you for tuning in. We are so excited to be bringing you season 5 of Scrapbook TV with some fresh new ideas. Today I'm showing you some techniques where you can use your Copic markers to bring extra depth and shadow to your paper piecing projects. With paper piecing, it means that you can take an image and add extra colour to it without actually colouring in. In this case, we've made this card here where I have used the same paper in the background on top of the stamp, which means we are taking this to this, and I'm going to show you how. The first step is to choose some papers. Now, if you're anything like me, you've got a lot in your stash and probably lots of leftovers as well. So dig into that and use it to make a card and work with your stamps. Today I'm using this little vampire girl. She's a brand new stamp from Ep8. You can find a link to that on my website as well, which you print on the computer, which means you can pretty much print her any size that you like. What I did first was to print her on Express It cardstock because I like to use that with my Copic markers. The next thing I did was to run just a piece of printer paper through, but I've used a little bit of double-sided tape to put this pattern paper on, and as you can see, when I ran that through the printer, it has printed the design onto the pattern paper. The next thing we're going to do is cut it out. For cutting out, you'll want to use some very fine little scissors. It depends on the design that you're using, but you want to cut outside the black line. So I'm going to make a start on her dress, and I'm just cutting outside these printed black lines, and I'm going to cut out the pieces that I want to have in the pattern paper. So in this case, the dress, the gloves, and the shoes. You can put your double-sided tape on the back of this before you even start to cut it out. So if you do have fine fiddly pieces and you don't want to be adding adhesive to them later, put the adhesive on now. So now all my pieces are cut out, you can start to make sure that you've really got everything you want, and when you place it on top of your stamped image, you'll find that everything fits absolutely perfectly. Now, your next thought will be, great, I can stick all of this down. Not quite yet. We're going to colour over the top of our image first, just because if your colouring goes outside the lines, we can hide it underneath our paper piecing, okay? So I'm going to just pop all my little pieces to the side. I'm sure I've got them all and they all fit really nicely. And I'm using my Copic markers today to colour this image, so I'll colour everything except the dress. If you do make a mistake and colour part of your paper piecing because you're on a roll and you carry it away, it doesn't matter because it's going to get covered over anyway. So I'm starting on the skin. I'm using E000000 E01, and I'll use a little YR00 for her cheeks. And I'll start colouring, and we'll get all of her coloured in, and then we can start our sticking down our pieces when she's done. It's time to start building up some shadow, and I'll show you on the chest how I'm building up shadow on our little vampire girl. Obviously, vampires don't cast shadows, but let's face it, they're not one-dimensional either. So we're going to add some shading on her, under her neck, the outsides of her arms, get a bit of cleavage going in there, show off her shoulder. We go up to the E00, now E01. We're going to shade it exactly the same place I shaded before, but just not quite as much as I did before. So smaller amounts of shading, and then work back down to blend that evenly. It's like playing piano scales. You work your way up and then you work your way down. And now it's just time to start peeling off the backing of my tape and sticking the paper piecing that I've cut out down onto the image. It's just very tricky because people think you've coloured fantastic patterns and got all these great texture finishes, when in fact it's a little bit of a cheat, because what we've done is just utilise the pattern paper. So it will fit absolutely perfectly over the top. And you won't see any of the white underneath it. And by cutting outside those black lines, your stamped lines are also included in the piece. So I'm just going to go and keep sticking these pieces down, and then we're going to start adding some shadow to our pieces. Oops, upside down. And there's only one way to make these fit, And the more accurate you are with your cutting, the more tightly they'll fit and make a seamless finished picture. Now it's time for us, we have our paper on top of our stamp, to add some shading because it gives it a little bit more oomph and dimension. The first thing I'm going to use is the Copic Zero colourless blender. It's going to prime the paper so that when we put our colours on, it's not going to grab and leave a hard finish. It's one of the little secrets that we're going to use. I'm going to start on her sleeve here and just add a little bit of colourless blender, which of course you can't see because it's got no colour in it. I'm going to also add some C1, that's a lovely, very pale, cool grey. Go over that a few times, just flicking up into the sleeve. It leaves a little fingery edge so you don't have a hard line. It's a lot harder to blend. I'm also using my BB00. It's a fantastic colour. You can pretty much shade everything with this. And because I've used the Zero colourless blender first, it's all just kind of blended itself, so I don't have to constantly keep going back over it. Now that most of the shading's done, we're going to add a little bit of glitter because we all know vampires sparkle these days. I'm using an At-You Spicker pen. The colour I'm using is Garnet. It goes beautifully with this. And I'm just picking up a little bit of sparkle on the waistband and these little fine details around her skirt. These are fantastic little markers. They have the teeniest of tiny glass flakes inside. You do need to store them lying down, and they provide instant sparkle with instant drying time, and that we really, really like. This also has a coloured ink inside it, so it tints and sparkles at the same time, but it does come in a clear, so you can pretty much put that over the top of anything you like. There we go. We have one sparkling vampire. And you can, looking at it, not tell that that's paper, but once you run your hand over it, you can feel the ridges and it's going to match in with the paper we've used on the card. So it's like the ultimate in coordination. I hope you've enjoyed this project. Thanks for tuning in. Keep watching each week as we bring you new and interesting projects. Bye for now.
For all your scrapbooking needs, come down to Alice in Paperland. Great service, professional advice and competitive prices.
The next tip I have for you is handwriting. With this day and age with texting and emails and computer, there's just not enough of the handwritten word. I think that a lot of people are scared to journal on their pages, but don't be. Grab a sheet of paper, have a practice before you put it on. Here, it doesn't have to be a long story. Personally, I find journaling a bit challenging. You can even just put the date or something about where the photo was, or just a few words about the story. It doesn't have to be long. For me personally, I love looking at people's handwriting and it draws me into the layout whenever I see it. 2 years ago my dad passed away and I've just loved his handwriting. I always have, but obviously now it's even more special to me. So give it a go, even if you don't enjoy it yourself. Handwriting can tell a lot about a person, and into the future you just might be making someone's day by seeing it. Now something else that's really going to make your layout stand out is to use all those spare alphas that you've got lying around the house, and we all do. So all you're doing is getting your background. In this case I'm using something a bit thicker, it's actually an album cover. And what you're going to do is, it doesn't matter what colour they are, if they're mixed from different packets, you're just going to get all those spare alphas that you don't have a use for anymore, and you're just going to lay them out like so. It doesn't have to be perfect, just a nice even coverage. And then you're just going to adhere them to the album cover or the sheet of paper or whatever it is that you're working with. And then you're going to set it aside to dry. Once again, it doesn't matter that they're different colours because we're actually going to paint over that once it's dry. In this double layout example, I've just given it a quick pink paint, and then over the top I've just put white paint. Now you can use Tim Holtz crackle paint if you wanted to give it an extra effect, but this is just simple acrylic paint, 2 coats, set it aside to dry, and what an effect is that. And not only are you creating something amazing, but you're using up all those old alphas that you don't have a use for.
Scrapbook TV is now available on DVD. The best of Series 1 and 2 is yours to take home and enjoy, filled with easy-to-follow, step-by-step projects. On sale now at all leading craft and scrapbook stores.
Today we're at Spotlight and we're going to be creating a 30 by 30 home decor canvas. So instead of putting away in an album your layouts that you spend lots of time creating, we're going to actually put it on display on a canvas. All the products that we're using today are craft, well, and a few other little bits of extra things, but they're all available at your local Spotlight store. Okay, to start off with, we're going to use our standard 30 by 30 canvas. As you can see, it's a little bit boring and it's just plain white. We're going to add a little bit of a texture to this. What we're going to do is actually just add a little bit of colour just to take away the starkness. So what I've used here is the antique white Kaiser paint. And all we're doing is just swiping that on. Now there's no rights and wrongs to this, and there's no rules. Now once that's done, as you can see from the example, there's a little bit of extra texture which we have used the craft grid stamp. We're going to use the dusty pink Kaiser colour, and we're just going to paint. Instead of ink, we're going to use a little bit of paint on that. Now, usually you have an acrylic block, but in this case, we're just going to paint it on to get that random effect and just push down gently with your hands. We don't necessarily want straight edges. So this is something that you can just keep adding until you're happy with the result. I've only used 2 of the colours that we've got here today, but you'll probably find one of the colours in our Spotlight stores. We've got around 45 different colours. And there's probably something there to suit your needs. Okay, now what you have to do is just leave this canvas to dry, and once it's dry we're going to add some paper to it. Now what we're using today is the Magnolia Grove paper range, and this is a gorgeous floral range that's inspired by different fabrics, and we're going to just add a couple of these pieces to the background. Now we've all done decoupage probably in the past, and so what you need is a good decoupage glue. All it is a little bit of stick and paste. We're going to put a little bit of paste on the back. Now the good thing about decoupage glue is that it's a sealer as well as a paste. So once you've actually put it on the back, we're going to seal it onto the canvas as well. Now it looks a little bit messy, but this will actually dry clear. Then what we're going to use is take another piece here from Romantic. Now these is the red and white spots. I've just torn a piece from the corner, and straight over the top of this piece we're going to glue that down as well, and again just seal that onto your canvas. Now what you can do with this, with the old decoupage and cutting and pasting, you can cut out as many of these flowers as you like. I've just cut one out and we're going to stick that in the bottom corner. Now this paste, all the products again that I'm using, don't forget that they're all available at your Spotlight store. It's your one-stop shop for everything that I'm using. Most of our paper ranges now come with a matching collectibles pack, which has about 50 to 55 different die-cut shapes that match all our paper ranges. So whether you're using it for scrapbooking or off-the-page projects, it actually makes your life a lot easier. So what I've actually done is taken just a few of these large flowers from this pack, and what I'm going to do is add just a little bit of this paste that I had, paint that I used before. This is the dusty pink Kaiser colour, just around the edges, just to take away some of that stark, the white edges, and to add a little bit more texture to it, and glue that onto the canvas. And here, using these collectibles, we're just going to continue to build up these layers and tell the story. At the moment, these are the pieces that I want to go underneath the photograph. So we're just sort of sticking those down. Okay, the next part that we're going to do is actually stick a photo onto the canvas. Now, I've actually changed my photograph. Isn't she gorgeous? This is a photo of my daughter. I've actually changed this to a black and white photograph instead of leaving it colour. Now, the reason I've done that is because a black and white photo will match any of these paper ranges. You don't have to worry about what colour they're wearing or anything like that. Now, I've already prepared one, but what we've done here, as you can see, is I have used one of the sheets of paper that are in the paper range, so this will coordinate beautifully as the first layer. And then I have double mounted it using a piece of vanilla cardstock. Now, once I've done that, I have swiped a little bit of the Craft Dusty Pink paint around the outside. And also down this edge, as you'll see, I've used the Craft lace, which again is available at your Spotlight store. And I have just run a piece of lace on the other side of the left-hand side. What we're doing is going to just turn this over and stick a few of these pieces of the foam tape onto the back. So what we're going to do then is just sit that onto your canvas in the place that you want. Don't be scared to chop these collectibles up just to get the pieces that you want. So I'm actually just wanting those leaves. So I just chop them off because there's lots of little bits in these packets. So now we're just going to start piecing this together using this foam tape. And what you can see is we're just going to tuck it in, tuck little pieces wherever you like. And we're going to stick that there too. We're just going to add a little bit of paste to this one and sticking it underneath. Whoops. And then all I did to finish off the canvas was add a title. Again, the main word here, cherish, has come from our collectibles pack. In this collectibles pack, you'll find that there is lots of different words in there, so you can choose. And then I've used these stickers to create the rest of the title from the Magnolia Grove sticker sheet. There's a couple of flowers down here that we've just used some of the paper range, which was just this sheet, where I've just made a little homemade flower, but the majority of it is using the Craft paper blooms. Now, we've got lots of little flowers in two sizes, the mini paper blooms and the large ones. And you can see from here, I've just added those to the canvas and just stuck them on. What you may not, well, you should be able to see if you can look closely, but what I've actually done is Ruby Rocket have brought out all these little glitters. And what I've done is put a little bit of glue on some of these flowers and sprinkled a little bit of glitter on it just to add a little shimmer to each flower. The same with these, the same with the flourishes. Now, Craft has got some gorgeous wooden flourishes that can be used to add extra texture and dimension to your products. These little pearls here, what I've got is the Craft pearl flourishes. Now, instead of sticking these on, what we've done is we've just cut around on the acetate and just tucked these in. Because this is three-dimensional, you don't necessarily want to stick them on because you want them to pop out a little bit. So don't be afraid to just cut the acetate and stick them straight to your layout using the acetate. I hope you've enjoyed the project. Get down to your local Spotlight store and grab yourself some Craft products and go home and make one for yourself. Thanks for watching. See you later.